I prayed every day, and this is what happened, is the title of this video. What happens if you incorporate prayer in your life? Sometimes it was the past. I didn't like that idea of prayer. I didn't used to like the idea of sort of submissive goody two-shoesness of prayer. Like that it was somehow a little bit like someone that was kowtowing to some authority, likely not divine, but patriarchal or somehow economic, and just asking for mercy, for pity, for sympathy, that it was an indication of weakness. Now I view prayer very differently, particularly since I've made it a custom in my own life. I regard prayer as a way of focusing intention. Not like I want this, I want that, because my life has taught me that wanting stuff leads to, suffering. I mean, this is not a new idea. I believe that's one of the core tenets of Buddhism. But any attachment to external objects or external goals, even if these are thought objects, I'd like to be regarded like this, I should achieve this, other people ought regard me that way. These, in a sense, these kind of mental positions are arrived at through inertia. Like, in a way, they say that we pray all the time, regardless. Have you not heard that rather wonderful phrase, worrying is praying for what you don't want? And many of us that would benefit from prayer are people that usually fall prey to anxiety and neuroticism. Neurosis I would describe as a state of doubtful anxiety, uncertainty, suspended in an unpleasant moment. Prayer, as I use it, sometimes I do use very conventional and I say Christian prayer because I'm in England and stuff, and I've absorbed a lot of Christian culture. But certainly my perspective on Christianity, I would hope, comes from a somewhat mythic and certainly comparative perennial perspective, i.e. I look at how Christianity compares to various other religions within my limited non-academic appreciation of that subject. Of course, I'm no theologian, but I've done this course by this fella called Bart Ehrman. You can do it online, pretty good stuff, on the historical Christ, where he breaks down the sort of position of Christ as regard what is the empirical evidence for there being such a figure. And there is some, actually, an apocalyptic preacher bringing about awakening as civilization faces the apocalypse. Now, we now know that the apocalypse didn't come 2,000 years ago. It looks like it's coming quite soon, but then don't all generations believe that perhaps a manifestation of our own certainty of our own impending death brings about a kind of fantasy about an impending cultural or indeed global Armageddon? Though God, it's hard to deny, isn't it, with the fires and the loathing and the unrest and the pandemics, that something does seem to be upon us, and prayer can be a vehicle for improving your consciousness. So I do like very simple prayers, many of which have come from 12-step programs, but 12 steps themselves, whilst initially applied to simple things like substance addiction, ultimately become about relinquishing your behavior, relinquishing the way that you regard yourself, relinquishing ultimately your ego. Now, of course, anyone with eyes can see, or without eyes can hear, that I've got an ego, but what I don't have is the kind of entrenched attachment and partiality in myself and own identity that I used to have, though I am sure you are very much still in the throes of the tumult of my inner life. Through prayer, through meditation, I have systems of navigation to get beyond it. My prayer is not for, hey, can I have a new bike? Can I be more powerful? Although I often feel those kind of feelings. My prayer is to be made ready, to be made ready. I've spoken to many great people, great spirits, great souls on this subject, and they have taught me that our role in our psychic life, the life of the psyche, the inner life, is to become prepared, not to exert the will, because the will is likely the agent of the ego, certainly in the unawakened. Of course, you might need will. Perhaps one day it will fall upon us, the great mission, the great purpose, and we will have to sacrifice, dedicate our lives to something noble and grand. But if that comes to me via the ego, then it will not be a true purpose. So my prayer is, God, make me ready, awaken me, creator. And when I say God, I mean the absolute consciousness, the unified field from which all matter and non-matter and dark energy comes. This point of emission, this singularity, not that we are progressing to, but the singularity from which we came, this oneness, this point of oneness that expanded into allness in every direction without limit. Here in the physical material world, there is only limitation through rationalism, through arithmetic and algebra of continual analysis and understanding, but beyond, behind, beneath, around, there is the limitless. Through meditation, we access aspects of our consciousness that are not grounded, knotted, embedded in the constructs of the mind. Through prayer, we see a way through. We see a way of directing the attention, directing the awareness, praying to be awakened, pray to see, pray to not be want to dominate the people in your life, pray to not live in other people's perspective of me, pray to be useful, pray to be of maximum use. Now, it's a slow process. Certainly it has been for me, throwing off the various manacles of addiction and attachment to fame and approval and food and money and sex and pornography and all of these various tendrils that have gullivered me down onto the sand, bound me down, these tiny individuals. But for the giant self to break free and awaken, prayer is a fantastic tool. So I pray like this. I pray, one, I make clear my gratitude for different things every single day. I am thankful for the life that I get to live. I'm thankful for the things that I've been given. Thankful to have a body that functions, to have beautiful relationships in my life, to be free from active addiction. Two, I envisage the day ahead of me and I ask to be useful in the encounters that I have and to stay awake, not to disappear into my own unconsciousness, not to disappear into my own desire, to know that there will be challenges, points when I feel fearful or nervous or angry, and to, in those moments, to have formed through prayer a stronger relationship with the aspect of my consciousness and awareness that need not be animalistically in pursuit of every rabbit or potential thing to prey upon. You know, I try to stay awake. The third thing is I pray for healing. For anyone that I have heard is suffering, oh, my mum's not well, oh, this thing's happening, I try to recall them. This keeps me out of myself. It makes me remember that there's more to life than what I want. But think about how difficult that is. Brrr, I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm. This is where we live, in the limitation of self. This is why so many spiritual disciplines are about asceticism, about the denial of food, to the denial of sex, to break the chains of bondage that tie us to this world, that tie us to our own appetites. Where are the hooks where all addiction begins? Whether it's to tech or to heroin, it begins with our own appetites. The excessive stimulation of our appetites by cultural forces, quite right, yeah, you're probably right. But if the point of severance, the point where we can control and release, that's where you want to focus, and caring about others can be a part of that. Fourth, as you may know by now, if you listen to me rabbit on long enough, is I want to be awakened to the signs, to the second language of the world, not just rote, direct, gross communication. Could you go over here? Would you stand there? Put a mask on, don't put a mask on, sit closer, sit further away. Stay awake to the subtler information available in nature, like a tracker. Being cautious, of course, not to become wildly superstitious and stupid. Fifth, I pray to be useful, to be in alignment with the deep intelligence that is present in the world, the deep mathematical language that holds together all reality, these observable patterns that make sense on this level of the real, but on the lower, deeper levels of the real, fall apart, fall into mystery, fall into a super state of unlimited potentiality. This means, I believe, that through prayer we can construct an entirely new reality. We can occupy our consciousness in a new way. We don't need to be limited to who we believe ourselves to be, who we've been instructed to be, who we've been taught we are. If there's any aspect of your identity, any aspect of your identity at all that don't seem valuable to you, then you can remold it, you can release it, you can alter it. Prayer has shown me that really we can be anyone. We can move anywhere because we operate ultimately not within limit but within the limitless. Of course, on one level, yes, gravity, yes, of course, the laws of thermodynamics, yes, of course, various laws around behavior. But this, in my view, is a thin and superficial veneer laying over the great reality. If you want to access the great reality, then try prayer.